For more on just how serious this situation is, I'm joined by Stephen Gibbs in Caracas, a journalist with the Times of London, and Ben Rosewell here in studio, former Canadian ambassador to Venezuela. Ben, I'm going to start with you. I say former, but you left Caracas yesterday. You just got back to Canada, right?
Just days ago, that's right.
Can you get us to how we got here today? Give us the skinny on how Venezuela has spiraled to where it is.
Sure. If I may, let me just say off the bat that I think this is a situation that concerns all Canadians because it shows us where populism leads. Whenever they get into power, populist leaders will do everything that they possibly can to stay in power, no matter the damage that it does to their countries or to their governments. This, in the case of Venezuela, is a government that was elected democratically in 2013. Nicolas Maduro did win a majority of the vote. But since then, the country has suffered the worst economic collapse in its entire history, an economic calamity that's greater than the Depression was. They've lost 40% of their entire economy. Naturally, in that period of time, Venezuelans have been anxious for change. And that put the government of Maduro in an awkward position where it had to choose between remaining democratic or remaining in power. And it chose to remain in power.
So we have the vote on Sunday. Stephen, what does that vote tell you about the Maduro government?
Well, if you look at the result, it suggests that the government is prepared to sort of fiddle the results. They say that 8 million people voted for this Constituent Assembly. That's a vote without an opposition. And immediately the opposition here said that sounds sort of implausible, particularly if you think that in the end of 2015, there was a parliamentary election. 5.6 million people voted for the government then. They actually lost that parliamentary election. The opposition got into power in the National Assembly. The idea that the government can go from 5.6 million to 8 million in such a short time in the background where it's a very unpopular government, as the ambassador said, the steepest recession, steeper recession than the Depression, it seemed completely unbelievable. And we then, of course, got the confirmation of that, really, when one of the CEO of Smartmatic, the company that provides the machines, electoral machines for Venezuela, itself said it does look like the numbers don't really add up. So as the government goes forward, it's already, this Constituent Assembly was a very controversial move, but the way it was formed, the way it was elected, has also caused more controversy. You know,
Stephen, we've seen the pictures of the streets of Caracas. You're out there every day. Describe what it's like.
Well, I mean, in the last 4 months since these latest protests began, you see protests almost every day. You see these kind of barricades on the street. People are encouraged to barricade their own streets. Whether that achieves anything, you know, that's another question. In terms of the daily life, yeah, you know, everything is in short supply. The people who are going to be being hit hardest by this are the people who have the least amount of money. Basics in the shops like rice or pasta or cooking oil becoming unaffordable. Today, the bolivar against the dollar dropped another 18% in one day. So rapidly, we're seeing the currency completely lose all its value. And then you have the other issue of security. So in the evening here at night, there's a sort of auto curfew. People don't really go out. You might go from one spot to another that you know, but you'd be amazed just how empty the streets are, particularly at night.
And Ben, you know, I mean, in a way, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but Stephen's one of the lucky journalists because he is in there. We've tried to get in. It's hard getting visas. Do you think, so thus the tension on Venezuela is diminished, right? Because it's hard getting in there for journalists. Do you think the world has forgotten about Venezuela?
Well, there certainly seems to be a spike of attention right now, but this is a long-standing crisis. It's been building for many years, and the international attention seems to sort of wax and wane. I think that our government is doing a very good job of trying to keep the spotlight on Venezuela. Minister Friedland has been extremely outspoken, one of the most outspoken foreign ministers. In our embassy, we've been real champions of human rights defenders, and we've used social media quite a bit to get the word out. You know, in a situation like this where our government's becoming more autocratic, they want to control the message and they want to shut down the story, which is why they're keeping journalists out of the country. And in that case, one of the roles of an embassy is to get the word out. And so I think our government has been trying to do that as much as possible. And we do see some international attention now. The question will be whether it can be sustained through what will take probably several months, maybe even years, to resolve itself before the government of Maduro is under enough pressure to finally concede elections and to allow the citizens of Venezuela once again to choose who their government is.
Man, I mean, the question everybody's wondering is, like, is it going to spiral forever and become a failed state? I mean, Stephen, I wonder what the way forward is. Where does this go from here?
I think everyone agrees that at some stage there's got to be some agreement between the supporters of the opposition and the people in the government that are prepared to have a real proper discussion with the opposition. Right now, there doesn't seem to be much sign of that, and you really do feel that the very senior people in the government, many of whom have been sanctioned by the United States, and there may be a sort of downside to that, there's kind of no escape for them. So they're just driving this on and on and on. They're not really reaching out to the opposition. And, you know, how will it end? It will end, I'm sure, ultimately in negotiation. But right now, they're further apart than they've really ever been. And this Constituent Assembly has become an incredibly controversial thing. It's forming tomorrow. It will have supreme power over this entire country, more power than any other institution. It can do a whole lot of things. It could, and the President Maduro has mentioned this, it can lift immunity from all the people in the current National Assembly. So we may get to a stage where you have elected parliamentarians feeling that they need to go into exile or hiding, and then the whole thing gets even more serious.
Thank you both. That was unsettling, but it was good to hear your viewpoints. Thank you.
Thank you very much.